This is the incredible story of how a man survived being lost in the Amazon jungle for 20 days. In late 1981, 21-year-old Yossi Ginsberg left La Paz, Bolivia, with Swiss teacher Markus Stamm, American photographer Kevin Gale, and geologist Karl Ruprechter. Their goal was to find a remote indigenous village deep in the Bolivian Amazon. They trekked through the jungle for 10 days before reaching the Tuichi River, where they built a makeshift raft from tree trunks and vines to take them further upstream. However, Ruprechter and Stamm soon became disillusioned and decided to abandon the trip, leaving Gale and Ginsberg on the raft with instructions to follow the river until they saw smoke rising from the trees, which would indicate the presence of people. But after just 2 hours, the raft hit a violent waterfall, and when Gale regained consciousness, he found himself on the riverbank with the raft destroyed and Ginsberg nowhere to be seen. Trapped and alone, Gale ran up the river to try to find help, while Ginsberg, who had been hurled into the jungle by the raft, was seriously injured and disoriented, having sustained a head wound, a broken collarbone, and a punctured lung. For 4 days, Yossi followed the riverbank upstream, calling out for help but receiving no reply. As he walked, he slowly realized that his companions had really left him behind. He spotted the forest around him becoming denser, indicating he was approaching the source of the river. He knew if he didn't turn back, he would never get out alive. But the thought of returning to the spot where he had become separated from Gale filled him with dread. He spent the night sleeping under the shelter of a large tree, where he was bitten all over by biting ants, whose venom burned like fire. By the time the sun rose, Yossi's entire body was covered in painful blisters. With no other choice, he forced himself to climb into the river and wade upstream. Just a few meters into the water, Yossi slipped on a rock and fell, banging his already injured shoulder. Exhausted and in pain, Yossi struggled onward, forcing himself to keep moving despite his aching muscles and lack of food or water. As the sky darkened, heavy rain poured down, causing the river to rise and making it difficult for Yossi to navigate. When he looked back, he saw no sign of land, only churning water. Eventually, the torrent swept him off his feet and pulled him deeper into the current. Struggling against the current, Yossi put his hands up to shield his face and closed his eyes tightly, bracing for impact. But instead of hitting bottom first, Yossi landed with a thud on a sandbar. Coughing and spluttering, he pushed himself out of the water onto the bank and collapsed, too weak to do anything else. With no shelter available, Yossi used large leaves and vines to make a lean-to and curled up inside it to wait for the rain to pass. Torrential downpours continued to fall for several days, providing Yossi with water to drink. The water was muddy, however, and caused painful diarrhea. Despite this, Yossi was too dehydrated to care. By the time the skies cleared, Yossi had lost his footing and fallen into a deep hole. Scrambling out, he sat on the edge and noticed a group of small pebbles nearby. Picking them up, he realized they were shiny and attractive. This gave him the idea to gather pebbles and smooth stones that he arranged on the ground in a circle around his shelter, believing it would attract attention. After a few days, Yossi felt his body begin to shut down, making it impossible for him to move. But driven by a sudden burst of energy, he dragged himself out of his shelter and used vines to hang a sign reading "Help" from a low branch. Next, Yossi set about finding food and water. He ate wild fruits and nuts and caught fish by hand and small insects to eat. To quench his thirst, he drank rainwater that collected in the hollows of broad leaves. On some days, the sun beat down mercilessly, scorching Yossi's bare skin. But when dark clouds rolled in, they brought not rain but strong winds that blew away any chance of relief. Days turned into nights, and nights rolled into days. With no way to tell the time, Yossi's sense of time ceased to exist. Desperate for water, he started drinking his own urine, which helped alleviate his thirst, but made him feel sick. Yossi kept moving along the riverbank, sustaining himself on nuts and fish. One morning, the forest suddenly opened up, revealing a clearing, but there was no sign of life. Yossi called out, but received no answer. He walked forward, collapsing once more from exhaustion. When he awoke, he could hear the sound of an engine somewhere in the distance. Summoning every last ounce of strength, Yossi forced himself to clamber to his feet and walk toward the sound. There, standing by the river, was Kevin Gale, who explained that when he hadn't heard anyone answering his calls, he had climbed into the river and swam downstream until he saw Yossi lying on the bank. Reunited, they embraced as Gale carried Yossi downriver on his back. Soon, they came across a group of indigenous men standing by their dugout canoes, who informed them that they had been searching for the missing men since July. Together, they carried Yossi to a local community where he was given water, food, and medicine. From there, he was evacuated to the town of Rurrenabaque, where he spent several months recovering in hospital. Doctors were amazed that Yossi had survived after being trapped in the unforgiving jungle for so long. He was barely clothed and weighed only 33 kilograms. He suffered from severe dehydration, malaria, hepatitis, infected wounds, insect bites, and exhaustion, as well as psychological trauma. Once released from hospital, Yossi traveled back to the indigenous community where he had been rescued to thank the people personally. He learned that the local chief, Abelardo Tico Tudela, had organized the search party after Gale failed to return from his scouting mission. Tico believed someone was out there and refused to give up hope, even when others thought the search should be called off. During Yossi's time in Bolivia, he befriended many members of the indigenous community, including Victor and Adelita, who took him on long walks through the forest. Years later, Yossi credited these experiences with inspiring his work in conservation and sustainable tourism. After returning home to Israel, Yossi wrote a book about his experience, which became the best-selling memoir, Jungle. The book has been translated into 25 languages. In 2017, Yossi's story was adapted into a film of the same name, starring Daniel Radcliffe in the lead role. These days, Yossi prefers to travel by car rather than boat and doesn't venture into the jungle without proper supplies and guides. But despite the hardships he endured, he says he has nothing but love for the Amazon and wouldn't trade his experience for the world. When asked what advice he would give to others facing hardship, Yossi said, "Never give up hope, never lose faith in yourself, and always remember that even in the darkest of times, there is light at the end of the tunnel." A fierce mama bear viciously mauled a woman who survived the savage attack by playing dead. But the terrifying ordeal was far from over, as she then had to walk 2 miles for help. So how did this traumatized woman manage to get through such a horrific experience? And what did she do that saved her life? It was May 2014 when 29-year-old Karina Gamboa went out for a jog along the roads around Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. The sunny morning felt like any other as she pounded the pavement. As she passed by a wooded area, however, Gamboa suddenly noticed a small black bear cub just a few feet away from her, happily grazing on some grass by the roadside. At first glance, it didn't seem like the little animal was bothered by her presence, but Gamboa couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Gamboa, an experienced outdoors enthusiast, knew that if a mother bear was nearby, her cub probably wouldn't be so relaxed around her. With that thought in mind, Gamboa slowed down and continued on her way. When she turned around a bend in the road about 30 seconds later, the sow came charging toward her, ready to attack. Before Gamboa had time to react, the huge bear knocked her to the ground with its massive paws. Then, without hesitation, it began raking her body with its sharp claws. All of a sudden, the woman's peaceful morning jog turned into a desperate fight for survival. With each blow from those powerful paws, Gamboa felt excruciating pain rip through her body. Her protective instincts kicked in, And even though she knew she shouldn't leave the safety of the fetal position, she briefly raised her hands to shield her head. That split-second decision proved costly because the sow swatted them away, causing deep lacerations on her arms and legs. The bear continued to pummel her relentlessly, tearing into her body with unrelenting ferocity. Gamboa cried out in pain and fear as she desperately tried to cover up and protect herself from the onslaught of attacks. The bear's heavy weight pressing down on her and its sharp nails digging into her flesh. Blood gushed from the wounds, quickly soaking the ground beneath her. Then suddenly, the bear bit her on the neck, knocking her unconscious. She vaguely remembers feeling something hot trickle down her face, probably blood, and then darkness consumed her. All she could think was, "This is how I'm going to die." But as the bear continued its assault, a strange calm seemed to wash over Gamboa. Even though her body screamed in agony, a part of her that she didn't know existed took over. Suddenly, memories of childhood lessons about what to do during a bear attack flashed before her eyes. Her father used to tell her stories about encounters with bears while they were camping in the wilderness, instilling in her the importance of knowing how to react in such situations. In the face of impending doom, Gamboa drew on everything her dad taught her, dropping into a fetal position and protecting her head with her arms. Although her entire body throbbed with pain, she managed to curl herself into a tight ball, shielding her vital organs and hoping against hope that the bear would eventually lose interest. As the minutes ticked by, the pain began to fade into the background, replaced by a chilling silence. Slowly, she regained consciousness and realized that the immediate danger had passed. When she mustered up the strength to open her eyes, she found herself lying alone on the road. She remembered everything she'd been through and the searing pain coursing through her body. But more importantly, she realized the bear was gone. Trembling, she forced herself to push herself off the ground. Despite the dizziness and weakness, she knew she had to move. Looking around, she saw that she was roughly 2 miles from the nearest paved road. With determination, she started walking. At first, the journey was slow and painful. Every step sent jolts of agony through her battered body. The soft earth road wasn't forgiving like her father's tales had suggested. Instead, it was rough and rocky, tormenting her raw wounds. But with the realization that no help would come unless she moved, Gamboa pushed onward. She had to keep going. Slowly but surely, she made progress. However, her relief was short-lived. She soon discovered that the forest had claimed the next section of the road, turning it into a thick, dark path. Without the guidance of the sun, she lost track of time and direction, fear creeping in. Suddenly, a twig snapped in the darkness. Her heart raced as she strained to listen. Was it the bear returning for another attack, or something else lurking in the shadows? Just when panic threatened to overwhelm her, she heard the distant sound of a vehicle. Hope surged through her. With renewed determination, she stumbled forward, guided by the promise of safety. Eventually, the road widened, revealing the familiar sight of pavement. Relief washed over her as she collapsed onto the road. At that moment, Sergeant Colin Gillikin, an army medic, happened to drive past her. Seeing her on the side of the road, he stopped to help. He quickly realized the gravity of her condition and wasted no time in rushing her to the base hospital. Doctors at the hospital worked tirelessly to save her life. They brought her back to consciousness and prepared her for emergency surgery. First, they needed to reattach her torn ear. Next, they addressed the fractures in her neck, carefully realigning the broken bones and stabilizing them with metal plates and screws. Finally, they set about treating her over 100 puncture wounds, cleaning them thoroughly to prevent infection. Throughout the long hours of surgery, the medical team battled not only to restore her physical health, but also to give her a chance at survival. After a single night in intensive care, Gamboa was transferred to a general care unit, marking a significant step towards recovery. The journey back to health was arduous, but with unwavering determination, she began physical therapy. Despite the pain, she persisted. After just 2 weeks, she was cleared to return home, but her ordeal was far from over. At home, she faced the daunting task of relearning daily tasks. Simple actions like getting dressed became challenging endeavors, yet with the support of her family, she pressed on. Slowly but surely, she regained her strength. Her spirit unbroken, Gamboa amazed medical professionals with her remarkable progress. Doctors marveled at her recovery, noting that her injuries were among the worst they'd ever seen yet. They were astounded by her resilience and the speed of her healing. As the months went by, her wounds healed, leaving behind only minor scars. She emerged from the ordeal physically stronger and more resilient than ever before. Throughout her traumatic experience, her thoughts often drifted to her 4-year-old son. She knew she had to survive for him. His innocent face and loving eyes spurred her on, giving her the strength to endure the darkest moments. In the aftermath of the harrowing attack, she found solace in her faith, crediting it with helping her navigate the turbulent journey of recovery. She believes her ordeal was not just a test of her physical endurance, but also a profound spiritual experience. Today, Gamboa lives her life with a newfound appreciation for every moment. The traumatic encounter left her forever changed, but she refused to let it define her. She uses her story to raise awareness about the importance of respecting wildlife and being prepared when venturing into nature's domain. For her, sharing her experience has become a way to honor the strength she discovered within herself and the medical professionals who saved her life. Although she survived, Gamboa remains cautious around bears. She urges others to learn from her experience and take preventive measures when in bear country. Her story serves as a reminder that encounters with wildlife can turn dangerous in an instant, and that preparation and awareness are crucial for anyone venturing into the wilderness. Although the experience left her deeply scarred, she has chosen to heal and move forward. Rather than letting the tragedy consume her, she focuses on the positive aspects of her life. Her indomitable spirit shines through as she embraces each day with gratitude, cherishing the beauty around her and the love of her family. The traumatic event serves as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of life, urging her to make the most of every opportunity. Gamboa's story stands as a beacon of hope, showcasing the resilience of the human spirit. Her journey from the brink of death to recovery is nothing short of miraculous. Through her ordeal, she has emerged not only as a survivor, but also as an inspiration to many. Her bravery and determination in the face of adversity serve as a shining example to us all. Indeed, quick decision-making, proper first aid, and sheer determination can tip the balance between life and death in extreme wildlife encounters. It is a testament to the power of the human will to survive even in the most harrowing of circumstances. So what should you do in a bear attack? According to experts, the best course of action depends on the type of encounter. Defensive attacks by Esau grizzlies protecting their cubs are the most common and dangerous. If you find yourself in this situation, playing dead may be recommended. Lie still on your stomach, protect your head and neck, and remain silent until the bear moves away. Catch this video for another incredible survival tale, or dive into these other awesome clips from the channel.